Hey there, folks, and welcome to the Generation Varied podcast. Thank you for joining us today. This is the podcast where we talk about culture, sports, health, geopolitics, and everything in between from a diverse Gen Z background and perspective. I am one of your hosts, Caleb Norris. A little bit about myself since we're just starting off this podcast. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I currently live in Brooklyn, New York. I work in the tech industry in sales for a software company, and I'm really, really passionate about technology and honestly about just sharing diverse perspectives. I think we need more opportunities to share and learn from our neighbors, and that's sort of what inspired this podcast. I love listening to podcasts. I've got a couple that I listen to just about every single day. And the theme that I kept running into is that so many podcasts are so homogenized with just one perspective. And so it's been a dream of mine. I've always wanted to be like a talk show host from the time that I was a kid and sort of interview people and share, relevant topics. And so when I thought of this podcast, I thought of including a couple of people that I went to college with that I just absolutely think are amazing and really have enjoyed their perspectives over the years. And I really wanted this to be a podcast that had international perspectives, Black, Brown, Latino, Asian perspectives, all of that kind of stuff. And so I'm going to introduce you guys to my good friend Ben here, who is joining us from Columbus, Ohio. Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey, my name's Ben Okenge, and I'm just pumped to be getting started with this podcast. A little bit about me. I was born in Ottawa, Canada, but shortly after I was born, I moved to Kigali, Rwanda. And so my whole life, I've kind of moved around from country to country. I've lived in Canada, Rwanda, Belgium, and now I'm here in America. Like Caleb said, we met in college in Kentucky, of all places.
Of
Um,
all places.
Of all
yeah,
places.
never
Central.
thought that I would have ended up in
What was up?
Kentucky. But yeah, now I live here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm a physical therapy student, and I'm also doing a PhD in health and rehabilitation sciences. So I'm a big time nerd. I love to learn. I love to debate. I love to hear other people's perspectives. And that's a big part of why I'm doing this. I think a lot of conversations, like Caleb said, that we were having in college, we didn't always see eye to eye, but I just really respect about both Jack and Caleb the fact that they're able to really articulate their perspectives and care enough to think deeply about things. And that's why I'm just really excited to be doing this. And our last host is Jack.
Hey, nice to meet you guys. Thanks for joining. A little bit about myself. I'm Jack Widener. I was born and raised in a small island called Taiwan. I lived there for 17 years. So my dad is from a rural traditional town in Iowa called Afton, and my mom is from the south part of the island. She's one of the 16 tribes in Taiwan, Puyuma tribe. And yeah,
Shout out
so
to, shout out to Yuma tribe. Oh, yeah.
that's right. Um, yeah, so I came to college in America. Just like Ben, my campus tour was probably just Google Maps zooming in. I had no camp relations or known anybody in Kentucky, and went to a school about 2,000 people, and so it's pretty easy to meet people. But Caleb and Ben are a few of the many people I still stay in touch, and that I think are just a few of my best friends. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this is, one, do new things, but two, like building bridges and not building walls with people who think differently from different backgrounds. One of the things I love is just listening to stories. And I hope that we get to share ours throughout this podcast. But a few things I will ride at dawn for are the New York Yankees, Asian food, and Afro beats.
Okay.
Yes,
uh,
Afrobeats.
uh,
I don't think people understand if you're ever having a party and people are like, "Oh, like what are we putting on the playlist?" Just cancel that and just put it on an Afrobeat station and just
Yeah.
enjoy yourself because there's not going to be a skippable song.
That's facts. They'll be
Yeah.
talking about something you don't even know, but trust me, the vibes
You know,
aren't
So
matching.
I mean, I really wish that no, you're spot on. I really wish that like more like African artists were highlighted like in at least on like the American charts because
Mhm.
I got into it over the summer from this artist called Lee Bianca, and I love Afro beats. That's a good one to ride for.
yeah, so I never listened to Afrobeats until college because I went to college with a lot of the international students. There's like 30 of us.
Yeah.
First week on campus, it was just 30 students just checking out what is this town that shuts down at 8 p.m. But a lot my friends from Kenya, Ethiopia, Rwanda, etc., kind of introduced me to Burna Boy, and eventually, I start falling in love with the other artists. But listeners, one thing about me is sport, and I love sports. I work in a sports marketing field. And what I hope to bring to this podcast is all the relevant and most important things you should know that's happening in the sports world is so breathe into our everyday life and our weekends. So I hope to bring stories that's gonna make you think, oh, this is why I should care. But anyways, there's so much going on this past week from Australian Open and NFL, or what I would want to say now is TSL. You might be wondering what that is. I'm calling it the Taylor Swift League.
Oh, brother.
Oh gosh,
But before I kind of hop into that, Caleb and Ben, I feel like, I watched sports growing up, but I'm noticing there's different types of sports fans. One of them is identity based team. Like you have a team that you root for because your parents did, and then be it, or you just grew up watching it all your life, and that's the team you always support. You don't really watch anybody else. There's the bandwagon. You watch whatever team that's winning. You're all of a sudden a LeBron fan, Lakers fan, heck, Kansas City fan. Who knows? Or you're a story follower. You follow the underdogs, those who are trying to do the impossible. And I kind of want to ask you guys, like, what kind of sports fan are you?
I
Listen, man,
mean,
I live here in Columbus, Ohio. Um, and
let them
so
know.
we bleed scarlet and gray. I've only
Let
lived
them
here
know,
for
Ben.
like less than 2 years, but it runs deep, man. You'll be walking the streets and you hear the OH, and you got to
I
repeat.
know.
There we go. You see?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a big time like identity sports fan. I'm a huge basketball fan, played basketball my whole life growing up and all the way through college. And so the Toronto Raptors are like my hometown team, and I've always rooted for them. Um, and then in terms of like college football, obviously huge Buckeyes fan. But really outside of that, I'm kind of watching from behind the scenes because I've never really been super attached to any other team.
Mhm.
So definitely when it comes to those two niches, I'm like very much an identity sports fan. But aside from that, I just love watching the stories and following, who are the good. It's mostly for me the seeing the up and coming people,
Yeah.
Right.
especially as I've been getting a little bit older, and now like I'm still young, but 24. A lot of pro athletes that you're seeing on TV are my age and younger, so it's
Yeah.
Isn't
it's
that
very
crazy?
to see, like, yeah, it's weird, but I love it.
Ben, I have a follow-up question for you. Uh, Knowing that you grew up all over the world and you experienced sports from different, background, what's it like going to OSU as a student and being, I mean, you're in it. You're in the
Yeah.
yeah, OSU. Like, what's the fan base like?
It's a whole different world, man. It's a whole different world. I would say, like, when we were in Kentucky, like, I saw UK basketball and I thought, like, sports does not get any bigger or better than this. I've only been to one UK basketball game in Rupp Arena, and like the atmosphere was crazier than any NBA game I've ever been to. UK, they bleed blue, but the Ohio
But
State,
but y'all hear that? But
yeah, the Ohio State University, it's something different, man. You got a stadium of, 105,000 people cheering on the Buckeyes, tailgates that go on for miles around the stadium. I
yeah.
live close by to the stadium, and the streets are packed when it's football season. I can only imagine that this is what, like, soccer is like, football, I should say, in South America, or maybe certain places in Europe. So it's huge. Caleb, tell us about your sports affiliations.
As somebody who was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, I completely agree, Ben. Like, I don't think people understand like how deep it goes for us. But what I like about the fan base is that, and what I like about Ohio in general and the Midwest is I call it Southerners have Southern charm. And, there are different regional areas that have like sort of like what they're known for. Midwesterners have what I call like Midwest sensibilities, right? And what I love about Ohio and Ohio State and all of that kind of stuff is that there's just sort of like this commonality um,
Mm.
amongst like Buckeye fans. That's just like no matter where we're at, I genuinely feel like some semblance of a connection to them, And
Mhm.
if there's one thing that Ohio State's football team is going to do, it's disappoint you at least once a year. Uh, and Ryan Day, we do love you. We know that you're a great coach, but the last couple of seasons have just been so disappointing. We know that you're a great coach, though. Buckeyes, we love you. But yeah, my personal like team affiliations. I grew up in Ohio and huge Buckeye fan. My grandfather actually would take me to the games every year, so he'd take me to a couple of games every year. So the last game that I got to go with him was like I think like my freshman year of college was the last time that he was able to like walk up the stadium steps and that kind of stuff. So it holds a special place in my heart. But what I love about Ohio State is that there's so much revenue generated from the team that they pour a lot of that revenue into like their cancer research and that kind of
Mm.
stuff. Like the Chris, I think it's Chris Spielman, Stephanie Myers,
Mhm.
like Cancer Association and that kind of stuff for breast cancer. Like when Ohio State wins, and this is what I tell people: when Ohio State wins, and when Ohio State has a good season, it goes into research and medicine, and it goes to bettering the world. And so for me, I'm a huge Ohio State fan. I always will
Wow.
be. I don't care where we're at. It goes deep, and it goes deeper because I mean, my personal mom was one of the first patients ever to be treated at the Wexter cancer like facility, like way back in the like early 2000s when the building was first being constructed. So it holds a very special place in my heart. And it actually inspired my mom to want to be a nurse. How good those nurses were at Ohio State taking care of her. And I could talk about it all day,
Wow.
but
Caleb,
I
I was not expecting any of that. I don't know much about OSU. Listeners, some of you might relate to this, but sometimes OSU fans can be annoying
oh, we're the
because how,
worst. We're the worst.
I'm just gonna say it. And I think it's just because you guys have a whole lot of pride about who you are and the culture you guys have, and that's awesome. Listeners, for me, I am I would say I'm a I'm falling in the first category and the third category. The first one is identity team, but let me start with the third one. So I'm a story follower. I love hearing, like Ben said, like the underdogs, what's going on in a sports world, who is on the come up. I'm a global sports fan, like World Cup, Olympics. I love watching a team or individual inspire younger generation to
Yeah.
do something new or challenging or giving them something they can pursue. And there's so many examples of young athletes today and even veterans that have so much impact on me and who I am today. But going back to the identity team, I'm a New York Yankees a fan, and my father, when he grew up in Iowa, it was only broadcasted. Um, they did the big teams there growing up, so they only broadcast the Yankees. So eventually, obviously, I became a Yankee fan. But when I was living in Taiwan, the first Major League Baseball player to play at MLB, Major League Baseball, was Chiming Wang, and he played. He was a pitcher that pitched for the New York Yankees, and it was such a huge deal. They broadcast every game, and because of the time zone difference, the games are in the morning. Um, and listeners, one of the best things about living in Taiwan is that there's breakfast shops everywhere. You don't eat at home. You get your danbing, you get your milk tea, you get your sandwich. Heck, you can even get stir fried noodles. It's amazing. But they have TV there and you can watch it. And I that's kind of how I grew up watching it. The Yankees, the whole island was cheering for my team, and cannot be more proud. I still have not had a chance to go to New York and
Yes,
go see the
yes, we're
games. But Caleb, I think what you said about Ohio State fans, like there's like a sense of you belong there. I feel like when I put one foot in NYC, like I'm gonna feel more like a New Yorker than
yeah.
I'll ever have as a Iowan or Kentucky. I don't know, but no, I love these answers. Well, speaking of different types of sports fan and Taylor Swift League, NFL, I was reading some articles on what was happening this
Dude, they're
past
gonna come
week.
for you. They're gonna come for you for calling it the Taylor Swift
Yeah,
League.
watch out.
Look, after I
The-
read this number, I don't think they will, because what are they gonna say?
There are men
It's your
burning their jerseys because she's going to these games, and I just want to let all of our listeners know, if you're burning jerseys or if you're upset about a woman supporting her partner at a game, you're not going to enjoy this podcast. You're really not.
yeah.
I promise you that this is not the podcast for you. We're not telling you to go. I'm just saying you're not in for a good ride here.
We're here for the good stories. So I watched a little bit Australia. So taking a step back, I watched the Australian Open. That was in the knockout stages last week, and I was able to see some of the best tennis player win their first uh, um, Grand Slam, and some of them Sablanka defended her title, and that peaked at like 2.25 million viewers, which is a lot, but not a ton for that property. They did, however, break the record for attendance, a little bit over a million attendance versus last year, which is like 800K, which is great. Like tennis is growing, people are following, they're hitting a lot of different audiences, but keep that in mind, 2 million for a tennis like champion match. Um, this is from the Front Sport Office in the AP News. The Chiefs and Ravens game. Well, first of all, I was disappointed because I was cheering for Lamar Jackson. He's from Louisville. He went to Louisville University, so that's why I was cheering for him. But anyways, it averaged 55 million viewers on CBS, the most watched AFC Championship ever. Um, it's dating back to 1988. Listeners, that viewership number is insane. That's two Taiwans. There's 24 million people in Taiwan. So to say 55 million, I mean, like, that's crazy.
It's insane.
Um,
I can't believe
and,
it.
and the reason I wanted to ask you guys about what kind of sports audience are you is because I'm just going through Twitter and noticing there's a lot of stories about how daughters and their father are bonding over football because the daughter's a Taylor Swift fan and the dad is a football fan, so they're watching the games together. So there's a lot of great stories coming out from this. There's even a sports book odds for Travis Kelsey to propose to Taylor Swift at Super Bowl. The current currently the odds is at plus 1,000, which is kind of, I expect it to be higher, because people be placing plus 5,000 odds on a weekly basis.
If he proposed, I'll say this: if he proposes to her at the Super Bowl, you will not be able to convince me that it's not a brand deal. I'm being so serious. If he uses that opportunity and if they win and he like gets down on one knee and proposes, you solidified it in my brain that this was a brand deal and that this was orchestrated behind the scenes.
Yeah, honestly, like I've heard, the conspiracies. I'm not really with it, I feel like imagine if you were in their shoes, like you're just trying to live your life, date the person you love, support them in what they're doing, and the whole world is out here saying like, man, this is fake. It's a setup. So, I'm not with the conspiracies, but
I
Caleb,
don't
you
know.
might be, that's just taking it a bit too far to where my antenna will be raised.
Yeah, they if he proposed at the Super Bowl, they flew too close to the sun, and you will not be able to convince me otherwise, Jack.
There will be obviously Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey will be the luckiest people if they do get engaged there. The second person that to be the most lucky is Travis's mom, bagging potentially another Super Bowl ring, and Taylor Swift as their daughter-in-law. But also the brands that sponsor Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. I mean, that is just going to generate so many attention. They are honestly, they already won the deal, the sponsorship. So, congrats. But yeah, so that's Chiefs and Ravens, 55 million views. 49ers and Lions. I don't cheer for both teams, but I was cheering for the Lions in this game. My heart is
Absolutely.
broken.
I think
But
I think we all were cheering for the Lions. If you weren't cheering for the Lions, and you weren't originally a 49ers fan, if you're a 49ers fan, I get it. But for the Lions to go to like what was that like their first or second playoffs like ever, and to go that far to the semifinals, like I was pulling for them. I really wasn't. I don't even mess with that team up north, but I was pulling
yeah,
for the Lions.
so that feud was the most watched NFC championship game since 2012, hitting 56 million views. So again,
Wow.
incredible.
Man,
So viewers, where do you go from here? Super Bowl 57 is on February 11th on a Sunday, 6:30 p.m. on CBS. So even if you don't cheer for the Chiefs or the 49ers, and I'll raise my hand for that, but you might witness a proposal at plus 1,000 odds.
one.
So we'll see.
All right, Jack, I've got another bet for you though. As you've mentioned, the NFL's just been smashing records left and right all year, right? Viewership records.
Right.
Let's hear, come on, give me a plus or minus on the viewership for the Super Bowl.
Oh man, it's tough because want to I want to say it'll be lower than what they think it is. But if Taylor Swift makes it from her Tokyo concert the day before to Las Vegas, I think they will bring a ton of audience. So I'm gonna say maybe 60, if not like 65 million. Listeners, I don't know what the average and the most watched Super Bowl viewership is. It might be significantly more. I'm excited for the commercials. I never been excited really for a while, but since now I'm in marketing world, I'm now like more pulled into okay, what are the brands doing? They're spending this much money.
Yeah,
What are they trying to communicate to their viewers? I mean, it's the best place to put your ad in. Is the Super Bowl, so that's what I'll be watching. So 65 million, 60 to 65 million is
that
my bet.
That's always my favorite part of the Super Bowl. Like, as somebody in sales and marketing, I sit there and like I study the ads, and I'm like, what technique did they use? Like, what what are they doing? Like, I think it was Coinbase last year that had like just the like just the QR code or something that was like floating like an old
Yeah.
DVD like paused screen. I thought that was genius because what they're doing is they're playing into like this imagery that we all know of, which is like that moving thing. But
Mhm.
I thought it was great. It was annoying as crap, but I thought it was great marketing. So
Well, we definitely need to talk about which ones stood out to us in the future.
for sure.
All right. So as we transition, I want to mention one thing about Caleb Norris, guys. For
Oh
those of
gosh.
you who
Uh-oh.
don't know, Caleb is a man of many talents, many skills. One of
Facts.
them that has impressed me the most as I've gotten to know him is that he is the absolute king of meal prepping. Okay?
Come on now.
I'm friends with Caleb on Facebook, and I regularly look forward to seeing what he's cooking up, what he's packing for his week. And honestly, it's inspiring. So that really
Truly.
got me fired up and wanting to talk about meal prepping. Um, so
Well, Ben,
I guess
thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate it. At this point, it's like if we're being honest, meal prepping to me is like this game that I play week over week, where I'm like, I literally am like on Sunday, at whatever time it's like I'm ready. I'm like, okay, how soon can I plan out what I'm gonna eat? Go get it back here, get it cooked, and clean my kitchen. And I literally time myself to see how fast I can do it. And I've gotten my time down to like 2 hours flat for like to get everything prepped. And it's like a game to me. And shout out to any, potential future partners. I plan on doing this for our family week over week. And I do have a Costco membership premium too, not just the base one. So
okay.
don't, don't
Flexing on us, Caleb.
I'm a big baller. I've got the Costco Black card, so don't mess with me.
Oh snap.
Jack, do you ever meal prep?
Yes. So for the last year from August to August, I went on a journey of just really committed to a full fitness journey in terms of like working with a coach who providing me meal plans, providing me my workouts. Um, I would just have to say, like, I have so much seasoning in my drawer now, and I'm learning so much about how to cook chicken well, from baking to searing. I mean, it's an art. How many
Hmm.
minutes do you leave it on the table before you cut it? I mean, just everything. But I haven't meal prep. I meal prep this past weekend. Nothing to affect with what Caleb does. I just did. I cooked my rice. I cooked my broccolini and my teriyaki chicken. But listeners, if you ever had a chance to, get a look into what Caleb is cooking, it's a full course meal,
Well,
and
Yeah, it's
it's
not
amazing.
broccolini and rice.
No, it, it is hitting every single corner of the pyramid, of the food pyramid, and
Yeah.
it's just so impressive.
I think my biggest thing is this is like what people don't understand. Here's like my hot take on meal prepping. People order, I think when I worked in restaurant sales, people will order, I think it's like 75% of everybody that's ordering food bases it off of the picture that's actually like on the menu.
Mm.
And like the idea there is that if your food looks ugly or is hard to see and or is just not visually appealing, you're not going to want to eat it, right? So like my tips on meal prepping is get really cute containers that you like want to use, and then you have to learn a little bit about like the like some of like the food safety stuff, like rice is actually, and this is actually something that I learned like 3 months ago, rice is not supposed to be like cooked and then reheated
Reheat it. Yeah.
because of how it grows, because it grows in water. Its bacteria that it grows is basically like the heat doesn't mess with it, and there it's after you wash it and cook it you're supposed to eat it. I actually just learned about that. So what a lot of people do is like they make a lot of mistakes with meal prepping, and then unconsciously like they have stomach aches or they don't feel well throughout the week, and then unconsciously they stop meal prepping because they're like, oh, that was that wasn't really worth it. And
Right.
so people really have to, if you're going to meal prep, the number one thing that I'll say is just get on YouTube and look up like basics food safety for like how you like keep leftovers and that kind of stuff, because it's 100% worth it. But you will get sick if you just like start putting hot food in containers and closing the lid. Like, don't do that, please.
Well,
Yeah.
Caleb, I feel so cold out, and I can't wait to learn about proper ways of meal planning. Ben, listeners, if you are not doing meal planning right now, don't worry. I'm in that boat, and I'm excited to learn and how to just elevate my life because I'm trying to get on Caleb and Ben's level right now.
All right. So before we talk about more tips, because I have picked up some tips from Caleb and I've got some planned out that we're going to talk about. But I first want to talk about just some of the reasons why we should even meal prep in the first place, right? I've heard a lot of people hate on it, say, oh, it's pointless. I don't understand why you do this. It's boring. But honestly, for me, there are three main reasons, and I'll break these down a little bit, that I choose to meal prep. The first one is that it saves time. The second is that it saves money. And the third is that it keeps you on track for your goals. And so, in terms of saving time, like Caleb said, if you really practice and you get this down to an art, you can prep an entire week of meals within just a few hours. And
Yeah.
you might not get it down to just 2 hours, but even if you spend one afternoon listening to a podcast, listening to Generation Varied, you can crank out a whole bunch of meals and really it saves you the time of washing dishes several times, which to me is the biggest hassle of cooking food. It saves you the time of like not knowing what you're going to eat in the first place and decision
Right.
fatigue. And those are some of the big time savers. In terms of money, I mean, it's night and day.
For
I
sure.
am a grad student right now and I'm super broke. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I can't afford to like go out and eat whenever I want. Every once in a while, that's cool. But for me, it's really like home cooked meals are going to be uh, by far the best option, buying in bulk. And so it saves me a ton of money. And then the most important one for me is just keeping on track with my goals. I compete in bodybuilding, and so does my wife. And so for us having,
Wait a second. We can't just say you compete in bodybuilding. This is a title holder. What was the guy? What weight class did you just like when you took what, first or second place?
I was in second place. Yeah, I competed in men's physique and got second place in the novice and open categories. So hopefully this year, by the end of the year, my goal is to get my pro card, and become a professional bodybuilder. But yeah, that's like meal prepping is
Legend.
a huge part of that. Like
Yeah.
you really, it's almost impossible to eat like a bodybuilder if you're not going to meal prep. And so that's my personal goal. But I realize that just like for most people, that's not going to be the goal. For most
Yeah.
people, your goal might be gain a little bit more muscle. It might be lose a little bit of weight. It might be just feeling happier in general and feeling content with the way your body is. And meal prepping is a huge hack to being able to do that. there's this this term that we use in bodybuilding that's, I don't know who started it, but it's very well known, and that is eat like a dog. And so what they mean by that is not, go eat pedigree. What they mean is that, if you love your dog, you're going to make sure that your dog's eating high quality food.
Yeah.
It's eating the same quantity of food day after day, and eating around the same times. And these are things that apply to us, but just like as humans with so much freedom and options, it's super easy to just, eat something different every day, and we don't realize the effect that that can have on our bodies. So regardless of whatever your goal is, meal prepping is a great way to get there. Um, and just
I
to kind
think
of go for
I
it.
think at least for me, I completely agree. Like, so I realized this past year that, like, especially as it relates to like weight and confidence and that kind of stuff. And I want to just go on the record saying that I don't think that I don't associate like weight automatically with like health and like not being healthy. Like, we know that that's not like a perfect comparison. But like when you start feeling better, you're like, oh crap, I can't go back.
Hmm.
You know, like once you notice the difference in like your energy levels, that kind of stuff. And I mean, for the record, I averaged out what I was spending on DoorDash like week over week. And I spent like, what sort of started me on this is like I realized I spent $680 on DoorDash in 1 month,
Oof.
which is a vile number.
Yeah.
And it's just like the time savings, the money savings, like you feel better. I could not agree with you more, Ben. Like, more people need to be meal prepping and taking pride and caring for them. Like, I view meal prepping as like a self-care practice. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Like, meal prepping is self-care. Like this the exact same way that we consider all of the other portions of self-care. I think the way that I take care of myself the most is honestly through meal prepping.
Yeah. So,
No, yeah,
Caleb, you
Ben.
talked about some. Go
Oh,
ahead, Jack.
No, I was just gonna say, no, I love that you laid out those three things. As somebody who did do meal planning, meal prepping, it's good to see and kind of stepped away. It's good to hear those things again because sometimes you're so
yeah.
deep into eating 4 times a day, 5 times a day, and if you're banned, probably like 6 or 7 at some point, depending
Yep.
where he's at in his fitness journey. But it becomes a task. It becomes this weird relationship with eating, right? But it's good to, for me right now, just taking a step back, like, hey, why did I start in the first place? And where did it go wrong? What happened to my mindset? So listeners, like, I hope you feel encouraged, to one, I mean, save money, like everybody wants that. It saves time, for you to do other things you enjoy and ultimately learn how to set a goal and hit them because that's a skill, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, the band this is great.
Yeah. And yeah, Caleb gave some great food safety tips. Definitely be up on your food safety, but also some more things that can help you be more consistent with that is cook foods that you enjoy. Um,
Yeah.
find ways that you can make the foods that you enjoy fit in with what your goals are and do that. You don't have to eat like only chicken, rice, and broccoli. Like that's
Right.
gonna get pretty old and boring. And even for someone like me, I pretty much eat the same thing every day, but it's nice to try something new. So eat things you enjoy, try new things. Also, have fun with the process. Like listen to music you like. Make it a self-care routine, like Caleb was talking about, and make this a process that you look forward to. And then learn to multitask. Like Caleb gamified it, do the
Yeah.
same. Figure out like how can I be most efficient in doing this? What other things can I get done? Can I also sweep the floor at the same time as my rice is cooking or as my pasta the water's boiling? Like there's so many things that you can get done and build into a discipline. And at the end of the day, the discipline and planning that comes with a habit like meal planning is always going to beat the self control of getting home and trying to force yourself to cook a meal when these days you can just click a button and DoorDash is on its way, you know? Like self control is weak in those moments when you're tired. So have a plan.
No, you're spot on, and I know we need to move on, but the last thing that I'll say is I think another thing that sparked with this was that I was realizing is that like because we know that we're going to eat a million meals, if you spoil one or if you have like a bad meal, like it's not that big of a deal, right?
Mhm.
But I was getting stuck at the end of my day at like 5:30, and I was realizing it's taking me like an hour just to decide what to eat and what to do with my day. And I haven't even started like cooking or anything like that.
Exhausted.
And then even if you have like a quick meal and it takes 20 or 30 minutes, then you have dishes. That's going to take another 20 or 30 minutes. And so, yeah, I'm a big proponent of meal prepping for all of the reasons that we listed. So yeah, no, could not agree more. On a topic that I've been dying to talk about with people. Jack, tell me, what have you heard about what's going on in the music industry this past week? Maybe in hip hop and R&B, rap music. What's been going on, man?
So one of my favorite albums so far is Pink Friday 2. And one of the reasons, I mean, I went on Twitter, and as you know, Twitter beef is or X beef is untouchable. And I started seeing Nicki posting, I mean, some of the most bizarre tweets, but also legendary tweets.
Unhinged,
And yes, that's the
crazy,
right word, unhinged. So
drug induced.
got me curious. But even before this album, Nicki Minaj is my favorite female rapper. I love her music. Yeah, and I love this album too. So that's in this past week to answer your question, Caleb. I saw something about Bigfoot. Um, I saw a song that dropped. I haven't really got a chance to listen to it, but I saw the album cover. So I had to look up what's it about. But Caleb, definitely would love you to fill me in on what's happening in pop culture.
Ben, what have you heard about what's going on?
Listen, today, as we record this, it's Wednesday, and you know, I'm a big hip hop fan. I'm you know, like hip hop culture has been a major part of my whole upbringing, and one of my favorite things about hip hop culture is rap beef. Like diss tracks, I'm here for it, you know.
Oh yeah.
Drake and Meek Mill, that's like
Uh,
one of my favorite, you know, some of the verses that were coming out of that were legendary.
yes.
You know, that's the first that comes to mind. But I think we are in the middle of another one of those, you know, once in a lifetime rap
Yes.
beef with Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj. And I
Young Tina Snow, as
whew,
they call her in Houston.
yeah, I just man, I heard Megan the Stallion's diss track, and I was like, you know, I hadn't really been keeping up. I wasn't up on it. So I was like, wait a minute, where is this coming from? Does she know who she's messing with? And then I woke up Monday morning, was it? To a notification on my Spotify of Nicki Minaj just dropped Bigfoot. I'm like, what's this? And I listened to it in the car with my wife, and let me just say, we sat in silence, just shook. I, I was I was shook. I couldn't believe it. So, Caleb,
Yeah.
fill the listeners in on what's been going on with them too.
So for if you follow along on and what's going on with pop culture, and or if you're on Twitter and more specifically Black Twitter, then you're caught up. But for the people that do not know, the rap girlies are fighting, and we're gonna put air horns right there. Sophie, just make a note after production. We're gonna put a little air horn. Megan Thee Stallion, who is a Houston born and raised rapper, she has a very Houston flow. She released one of the singles from her new album, Hiss, and she had one line in the album or on the song, and it was not actually directed at Nicki Minaj. She did a call-in radio interview with the Breakfast Club. And first of all, I love that she called into the radio Breakfast Club like it's
That's great.
2005 again or something. Like all I can hear is that like intro to Kiss Kiss by Chris Brown. Like my girl ain't doing a thing anymore at all. I got just what you need. Like that is what I hear when I think about audio and somebody like calling into the radio. So she called into the Breakfast Club and she made it known a hit dog will holler. And boy, did it ever. So the line that Megan said in one of her songs was she said, "These hoes don't be mad at Megan. These hoes mad at Megan's law." And Megan, Megan's law, for those who don't know, is basically a federal law requiring law enforcement to make information available about registered sex offenders. For those of you who don't know, Nicki Minaj back in 2019 married Kenneth Petty, who is like a two-time registered sex offender, and also I believe he was convicted of manslaughter back in 2002 or something like that. And since Minaj married him, people have been distancing themselves from her. Most specifically, the Carters have been, because they don't want to be associated with an artist who would openly marry somebody that is like a 2 or 3 time like sex offender. So the thing is that Megan did not specifically say that this line is about her. So when she said that a hit dog will holler, the hit dog hollered. And what's I think ingenious about all of this is that number one, Megan has not responded to Nicki Minaj at all. And Nicki Minaj pretty much stayed on live in some facet for 48 hours straight after this came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would personally venture to say that she's currently ruining her legacy because it's pretty much when you look at her career and how long she's been on the scene. Nicki Minaj is obviously a great talent. I don't think anybody's debating that. But there's this sort of like jealousy that she's really created over the last like 5 or 6 years with different other female rappers and pretty much not wanting to let anybody else be respected on the scene or collaborative or any of that kind of stuff. She's been pretty disrespectful. Now, the thing is this, is that Nicki Minaj has specifically dissed Megan Thee Stallion in like 4 or 5 different songs. In Red Ruby This Leaves, she says, "I don't F with horses since Christopher Reeves." She was talking about Megan Thee Stallion there. There are a myriad of other lyrics that she's done in. So I think Megan is a genius because she found a way to use somebody else's platform to elevate hers. And she literally, without even calling them out, and then didn't respond, and then got a slot on Good Morning America on Monday and announced a U.S. tour this summer, where she's going to be touring all of her music, which she hasn't gotten to do because of COVID and that kind of stuff, and then because of the passing of her mother. So I'm really excited for Megan. I'm officially a hottie. There's actually a lot of legal implications that are coming forward because Nicki Minaj's fan base, the Barbs, are doxing people's locations and all of that kind of stuff. And it's actually pretty crazy, everything that's going on. And it's very clear from the 2 songs that were put out, Megan's is better. I mean, have you guys heard them?
I haven't listened to it yet,
I don't
so I'm not
know.
gonna chime in on that, Caleb. But
Bigfoot
that
is
background, I haven't. That's really, yeah. I didn't know any of that. I just played a song, and like you said, I'm not really into Twitter world, and
yeah.
but that was just one of the things that caught my eyes one day. Something retweeted, just like when her album was dropping, right? Like there's so much happening between her and what she's saying about. I'm calling out everybody essentially. Yeah, so no, that's so I didn't. Yeah, that's so interesting, and I need to listen to Hiss now and see
Yeah.
what is going on there. And
Shout
then
out Megan Thee Stallion. If you want to be on this podcast, I want you on this podcast. I wore my cowboy hat today specifically for you, and I'm not even hitting on you. I'm a raging homosexual. I just want you to know that I love you so much. And I think Nicki Minaj went way below the belt, making fun of
Yeah.
her mom who died and all that kind of stuff. And
What?
yeah, and she basically gave the thumbs up to Barb's that like if you find her mom's grave, like desecrate it. Like they're like when I say that like Nicki Minaj has gone way off the rails, like it's not even a joke. Like there are people that are literally going to go to jail for basically supporting this woman and doxing people's locations. and there are people that are probably going to go to jail for trying to desecrate her mom's grave.
Yeah, I will say, as much as I do, I'm a big Nicki Minaj fan, and I think personally, I I easily get caught up in the drama of these rap beef, and I forget that these are real people we're talking about. You know what I mean? Nicki Minaj did take it too far. However, as a rap fan, I'm kind of here for it.
Love to see it.
But like one of my favorite rap moments of all time is the fact that like Pusha T was the one who announced to the world that Drake had a son, and like now this is just common knowledge, but at the time like very few people knew about Drake's kid. And so that was like a big no-no and was also hitting below the belt. And I think Nicki Minaj is very much doing the same here. And yeah, for those of you who haven't listened, go ahead, listen to both of these diss tracks. And Nicki Minaj throws in a little bit of, I don't know if it's a ASMR or what at the end of hers, but you get to hear her whispering about Megan Thee Stallion into the mic a cappella for what felt like 5 minutes. But yeah.
It's not very good. It's also not performing very well, like on the charts. It had the fastest fall. It fell 60 spots like 2 days later after it like climbed, which is like one of the fastest ones that's like ever fallen. And Megan is projected to like have her first #1 single next week.
Yeah.
So I've been a Nicki Minaj fan for a long time, but I think it's time to salute a new queen.
Wow.
Megan Thee Stallion.
Well, listeners, you heard it all today. And I think it is just going to be a fun week for you. And why? I mean, one, you got a TSL coming up, the Super Bowl, Taylor Swift League. You got meal prepping. You're going to start feeling good, save money, save time, and start hitting your goals. And you're going to listen to this diss track. How fun. You can listen to this track while you meal prep. So listeners, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel, Generation Varied Podcast. Follow us on all social media platforms, and please send us any question you have. Caleb, Ben, any final thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're just so excited to be able to engage with people who are listening to this. Share it around with your friends. Send us any questions, any topics that you'd like us to talk about. Pretty much anything is on the table, and that's one of the exciting things about what we're going to be doing with this. Caleb?
Yeah, no, thank you guys for listening. Ben, Jack, thank you guys for agreeing to do this. And as always, hair and makeup could not be here. We do have an opening for hair and makeup. Our executive producer is Sophie St. Furman. Shout out Sophie.
Legend.
For
Thank you.
He is a legend. But yeah, with that, we're gonna sign off, and you guys have a great rest of your night.